In veteran filmmaker Brian DePalma's Carlito's Way, starring Al Pacino and Sean Penn, a Puerto Rican former criminal recently released from prison after just 5 years, having initially been sent down for 30 thanks to his lawyer, endeavors to stay away from the street scene and stay clean, but the pressures around him make it difficult for Carlito Brigante to escape to a better life outside of NYC with his lover Gail. Hello everyone, and welcome to another retro review. Reviews of films I've already seen. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for more videos. You know, I should have taken notes when I just finished watching Carlito's Way the other day. I ended up having a lot more to say about it than I thought I would have, and I'm probably going to forget half of what I was supposed to say. Carlito's Way is often considered something of a younger brother to the crime classic Scarface. Is it fair to compare Scarface and Carlito's Way? Probably not. But with both being directed by DePalma, both starring Al Pacino as the protagonist, both concerning Latino gangsters, naturally comparisons will be made. If anything, in terms of plot, Carlito's Way is basically, what if Tony Montana survived and was sent to prison, and later reformed? Of course, that isn't doing Carlito's Way any justice. As someone who is pretty lukewarm on DePalma, I personally never really thought Scarface or The Untouchables were all that great. Carlito's Way really stood out to me for its refined maturity, its handling of a bit of a different side to the gangster genre, the veteran who wants to get out of the game. It feels more humane than Scarface. That's not to say Carlito's Way is innovative, it's basically the one last job trope, combined with the I want out motive. Pacino only did something similar a few years earlier with The Godfather 3.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
But De Palma's offering was extremely effective in its execution. One of the things I noticed on my rewatch is how quintessentially De Palma Carlito's Way is. There's me talking about how it's mature and it stands out and everything, but it's probably the most Brian De Palma film in Brian De Palma's filmography, his peak, his last great film, one where all the De Palma-isms are dialed up to 11. Like, it's so sleazy, so brazen and open in its depiction of nudity, a far cry from mainstream cinema today, but at the same time it's stylish and evocative. The scene where Carlito breaks his way into Gail's apartment comes to mind. The camera work in the film is fantastic. The way it's always gliding around the clubs is vintage De Palma, and it captures character moments perfectly, giving it a fly-on-the-wall effect. At times it's used to rack up the tension, at others it has a classic De Palma and Alfred Hitchcock voyeuristic effect. The final chase sequence in the film is superb, and it's so engrossing it's easy to forget that much of it is filmed in a continuous long take. And that's what you want. You want to not notice techniques and effects utilized by directors, because De Palma uses them to serve the story, rather than draw attention to the effects for the sake of it. It's really as I've gotten older that I've started to appreciate De Palma more, when I've never really thought of him as all that. Then there's the bombastic music score, the vibrant colours, camera tilts and tracking shots. There's even a staircase shootout reminiscent of The Untouchables. It's not some kind of departure from the director, it's him doing what he does best and doing it well. There's modern, fresh techniques coupled with the old school filmmaking, like a scene at Gail's apartment where the two argue, which is filmed with a full shot where the camera swivels from left to right. It feels like a stage play, or more appropriately, given he was one of De Palma's inspirations, a Hitchcock picture. Carlito's Way has an oddly timeless feel to it. I wouldn't have hesitated if you told me the film was made in either the 70s, 80s, 90s, or even the early 2000s. Even some of the less than great elements still feel very like a De Palma film, like a guy bringing a baseball bat to a mob hit, and some parts which feel a bit clunky, like the way Pachanga was blown away comically in the middle of Carlito's big emotional death scene. Al Pacino is great in the titular role, even if he does look kinda Italian. A character even jokes about it in the movie, and Penn is equally brilliant, frustrating you with his utterly dirtbag actions in the film. Pacino does have his outbursts and explosions, but he's a lot more toned down and subtle than a lot of his other performances in the 90s. And with the beard and the jacket, it's a unique look for the man, and as such sticks out in his filmography. When he went up to collect his Oscar for A Scent of a Woman, he also had a beard. Maybe he was shooting Carlito's Way, and figured loud and proud was the way going forward to win awards, so started shouting a lot more for the rest of the decade. There's something quite funny on a meta level with the movie opening with Carlito's speech in the courtroom and the judge saying, "Okay, Mr. Brigante, you're not accepting an award." And many gangsters have made similar speeches and then gone right back to a life of crime after they've been released from prison. But the shock of this film is, for the characters and for us, that this guy really does want to go on the straight and narrow. So what, are we supposed to watch a film where someone devolves from being a gangster rather than becomes one? But the character is well constructed. You do feel this guy used to be a heavy hitter. His streetwise instincts come through and that old Carlito manifests from time to time. Take the scene where Carlito accompanies his nephew to deliver money. Really, this scene should have been a lesson for Carlito. Stay away, just go cold turkey, don't hover in between both worlds, and don't go along with your friend Kleinfield. Like the way the nephew Gargiro thought there was no way his friends could betray him. But anyway, Carlito can sense something is up. He takes control of the situation with the trick shot, asking the guy for a light to see if he's carrying, putting the guy with the reflective glasses where he needs him to be so he can see behind him. A combination of different things can make you feel that Carlito has really lived the life. I don't want to get too into the story, characters, and Carlito getting sucked into the world here. I have other videos planned for that, so stay tuned. But it is interesting to discuss these things. Why Carlito failed, how he was doomed, and it's in part because he tried to change. His new nature is what made him grant Benny Blanco from the Bronx mercy. You can see from Benny's face, he thinks the man has gone soft, and that means he no longer commands respect. He's no longer a great white shark pushing others out of the way. He has become prey. When the two are up close, Benny's face is completely red. This is a man drenched in the underworld. He would not understand Carlito's notions of getting out and getting clean. He would see Carlito's mercy as weakness. He is a fully fledged gangster. In him, Carlito sees himself from his younger days. It's a case of never meeting your heroes for young Benny. Carlito doesn't have the fire in his eyes like Benny does. He doesn't look anywhere near as intimidating as he did a few seconds ago when he went full gangster mode. Benny senses the weakness, the fact that Carlito is over the hill. Pacino's face, on the other hand, is half red and half white, half in, half out, half a gangster, half reformed. But as they say in Boardwalk Empire, you can't be half a gangster. Benny killing Carlito is literally his past catching up to him. His sins from the old world refusing to let go. And it's ever so frustrating seeing as though Carlito managed to get away from the Italians, get to Gail and the train in time, but it's this punk Benny who we and Carlito forgot about and who eventually gets him in the end. Then again, maybe it was his pride that got Carlito. His refusal to just accept Benny's champagne bottle is kind of where the entire conflict started. But why should Carlito accept it? He's from the old school, where street guys had principles and integrity. Benny has none of that. He was just a punk. And maybe on some level, Carlito realized that he was once such a punk, and his notions of ethics and street code were empty and null. They didn't exist. He was a soldier in an invisible army. He did 5 years for no reason, and Benny reminds him of that. After all, his number 2 betrays him, Kleinfield sells him out, the wheelchair guy, played by Viggo Mortensen by the way, was wearing a wire, and these guys are supposed to be the OGs. But with Benny Blanco from the Bronx, sparing him was a good deed, an act of grace. But this is the underworld, where the rules are flipped. Sparing him was the wrong thing to do. Cut to the ending, and as Carlito runs to the train, he turns and looks behind him momentarily. A glance at the past, him leaving it behind forever. But unbeknownst to him, Benny is running right alongside him. Carlito's past is running alongside him, the man he used to be, and eventually, as we know, it catches up to him and takes him out. From a gangster's perspective, you can actually see where antagonists to Carlito come from. We are told in his head, we know what he is after and are rooting for him, but from the point of view of the underworld, you can see why a guy like Benny would want to take him out, and why Pachanga would want to move on from him when Carlito is letting rats walk away and punks openly berate him in public. From that point of view, Carlito made clear mistakes, but this is something we can discuss in a future video. What do you think of Carlito's way? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.